Welcome, friends, to the premiere episode of the Your Other Brothers podcast, or the YOBcast, as we're calling it, or as some of us are calling it. Yeah, I'm calling it that. We are bloggers here at yourotherbrothers.com, navigating faith, homosexuality, and masculinity together. And this is the latest iteration of our little community. I'm one of the several bloggers on the site, Tom Zuniga, and here with me.
This is Your Other Brothers podcast.
It's like running through an open door. It's like finding what you're looking for. We've been waiting. We won't wait no more. We got a beautiful story. Every moment on and on. We got a beautiful story. And we've only just begun. The best is yet to come.
Welcome home, friends, to Your Other Brothers podcast. We are a community navigating faith, homosexuality, and masculinity together. For the 100th time, my name is Tom, and I'm so glad that you are here. I'm coming at you live from the Jewel of the Blue Ridge of Asheville, North Carolina. And this is really special because this is an episode, 100 episodes in the making. Joining us from the other side of the state, from the city of Oaks of Raleigh, North Carolina, joining us for the 51st time, it's our other brother, Ryan. What's up, Ryan?
Hello, Tom. Good to see you for my 51st time.
I know. I was kind of hoping symmetrically that it would have been number 50, but sadly you had to be on one extra episode.
We snuck an extra one in there.
51 episodes, Ryan. Congratulations.
We can go back and delete that. No one has to know.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just delete an episode.
This can be 50.
Yeah. For the 51st time, Ryan, I'm so glad you've been with me for more than half now. We crossed the halfway mark. More than half of these episodes you've been on. So cool. Joining us for the 12th time from the folksy tundra of Minnesota, it's our other brother, Aaron. What's up, Aaron?
Hello, number 12. Okay, well, nothing compared to 51 and 100, but happy to do my bit anyway.
You've got a long ways to go, but I'm so glad you're here. And you guys, this would be such a great episode if it was just Ryan and if it was just Aaron, but we're just getting started. We're only halfway through these introductions. Joining us also for his 12th episode from the mighty mitten of Michigan, the handprint of God. We have so many names for it. It's our other brother, Ben. What's up, Ben?
Wow, I guess I'm a little bit tied with Aaron there on being on for 12, so that's awesome. Thanks again for having me.
I like instigating a little competition. Like right. You guys are now neck and neck.
Gonna see if we can, cut out his internet or something. Maybe not make this one count.
We got a tie going, and the baby of the bunch joining us from the frozen tundra. I think this is the first time we've had the folksy and frozen tundras on at the same time. So Tundra Crossing, Alberta, Canada, representing. He's the baby of the bunch. This is his 9th episode, and he's got the best beard, though, I would say, of all of us. It's our other brother, Will. What's up, Will?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going so well.
You know, I've been on more episodes than the number of blogs that I've written, so that's good.
It is close.
How many blogs have I done now? Like 5?
5 or 6, but they're all sublime. You know, we love a Will Cooper blog sighting. But we love a Will Cooper podcast appearance as well. All 5 of you guys, this is the first time all 5 of us have recorded at the same time. And what better time than episode number 100, you guys. You guys, we did it. We made it. We made it to 100. So excited for this new era. I've literally just moved. So this is like a really fitting occasion because I've mentioned in previous episodes that this 100th episode has been delayed for quite some time now. If we would have had a normal podcast schedule, a normal content rhythm this year, this probably would have come out in like April or May or something. But we did an Enneagram series. We took a little retreat break. There might have been another 1 or 2 funky breaks in there or changes to the schedule, but here we are, and it's really fitting because it's happening as I've just moved locations. I'm still in the Jewel of the Blue Ridge. Don't worry. I feel like this podcast has to shut down if I'm ever not in the Jewel of the Blue Ridge. But I just moved. I'm actually still moving, so I'm in the process of moving. Just got my new internet set up yesterday, and And we just came back from a retreat, some of us, just about a week ago. And so this is really cool timing. It feels like a new era is upon us. Do you guys feel the new energy? The new energy in the room?
Yes. I saw so many new faces at the retreat, and I'm excited for what's next for us.
Yeah, we missed seeing you other guys at the retreat this year, but Ryan was there, and we will have some retreat blogs to talk all about that. We won't spend as much time on it this episode, but yeah, lots of cool stories, lots of cool experiences. I'm excited to get those blogs out. For today's episode, this is the story of YOB. We're essentially just gonna, drink our metaphorical champagne. Or if you're me, you're gonna drink out of the joy chalice that is filled with this suspicious looking resiny wine substance. I'm gonna bask in this today, you guys. So feel free to imbibe, for those that are on this show today, to imbibe, if you will. It's a celebration.
What a coincidence. I brought my joy chalice as well. It's sitting right here next to me, as it were. So that's great, Tom.
No free advertising. Don't say what the brand of that is.
It's a bit too early in the day for me. So
that's right. We're recording in the evening East Coast. God knows what time it is in the frozen tundra right now. Sometime in the middle of the day, I think.
Though it's dark out. No, it's kidding.
I mean, it's also winter, so it's kind of balancing out. Yeah, exactly. This is a celebration episode. We're going to get all nostalgic, you guys. We're going to look back at the past 100 episodes, pluck out some of our favorite moments, conversations, guests. And this is so special and touching. We have a slew. I think I can use that word, a slew of voicemails that you guys have been calling in for the last several weeks, if not months. I have to double check the earliest date of one of these, but for at least several weeks now, you've been calling the YOB line and leaving us some voicemails to commemorate this episode. So I'm just really excited. I'm excited for this new era. I'm excited for all of our episodes now to start with the number 1. Like, that is so cool. That is such a milestone. So I'm just super excited to be here. And you guys, we're already at the sponsor. We're already at the sponsor of this episode. You know what I did? I was curious. You know how they have all these like anniversaries, like 20th anniversary gifts and 50th anniversary? I was like, is there a 100th anniversary gift? Is that a thing? Do people even stay married for 100 years if they're not like Noah or somebody? So I don't know if this is accurate. And this is a very quick request today when I was seeking out sponsors for the 100th anniversary episode. But apparently 10 karat diamonds, like this is the 10 karat diamond episode for Your Other Brothers podcast. If ever there were a time to shower us in jewels, this is it.
That's right. So yeah, you'll put your address below for people to send you.
Send me your 10 karat diamonds.
Is it like a carat for every 10 years at some point?
I guess so, yeah.
Because no one's married for 100 years. I'm sorry.
Not these
Noah. Pastors, actually, Ben, I can no longer call you Pastor Ben. Pastor Will. How long was Noah married for? Do you know? Do you know how old Noah was when he died?
Do you think I actually pay attention to those things?
What does the Bible say he and his wife gave each other to celebrate their anniversary?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's in the Hebrew. I'll just have to take some time to look it up.
Like 10 pigeons or something.
10 carats.
10 literal carats.
Noah made it to 950. How much of that was he married? Don't know. What do you do for your 500th anniversary? Does it just get old after a while?
It gets really old. Oh my gosh. But that's where we are, you guys. It's our 100th episode. So shower us in 10 karat diamonds. Again, not sure of the accuracy of that, but that is the sponsor of today's show. I wanted to roll through some stats to give the awareness of where we are and how far we've come, because it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that here we are. Our first episode, which was very similarly titled, it was called The Story of Us. And that episode came out on August 9th, 2016, which, if you do the math, that's over 6 years ago now. This is an episode 6+ years in the making. Which if you would have told me, I guess at the time, I wouldn't have known how to answer that. Like if you were to have asked me on episode 1, like, will you make it to episode 100? Will you still be doing this 100 episodes later? I mean, I guess I would have liked to think that we would have, but like that's not something that I would have consciously been thinking about at the time. So it's just so weird to like transport back to 20, gosh, how old was I then? 29-year-old Tom. 29-year-old Tom like would have had no concept of doing this 100 times. So it's kind of fun now to be on the other end of that and be like, oh yeah, we'll do this another 100 episodes. I think. I think as long as you guys are along for the ride, right? We got to bump up. We got to get Will to double digits. We've got to get Ben and Aaron into the 50s with Ryan and me. So we'll get you guys there.
You'll get there eventually. Don't worry, guys.
You'll get up to our level. That was our first episode back in 2016. Since then, you guys, we have been downloaded over 150,000 times. So that's pretty cool. 150,000 downloads. And that includes our sister show, our brother show, the ConvoCast, since we're all on the same podcast feed, but nonetheless, well over 100,000 downloads from the beginning. So that's pretty cool. I got to give love to our top 5 countries because our 5th country has come out of nowhere to just, I don't know how, I don't know who that it is or who's there or how they're listening or why they're listening or why they continue to listen. But, after our countries of the United States, after Canada, after the UK, after Australia, we have Italy supporting us so strongly, rounding out the top 5 of our countries listened to. So how do we say thank you, Italy? Do you guys know? I should have Googled this. I should have prepared better.
Grazie.
Grazie. Yes, that sounds right.
That sounds right.
I think that's got to be right. Yeah, that's absolutely.
We should all watch Luca to celebrate. That was an Italy, right?
Aw,
Maybe
yeah.
they've been listening ever since we did podcasts on Luca. Maybe that's why. Yeah. Let's go with that. But we love all of our listeners, not just those that primarily speak English. So thank you. Thank you for listening to this show, not just here on this side of the world, but all over the world. I wanted to tell you guys our top 3 most listened to episodes because I know people are curious. What are people listening to? No surprise, our most listened episode, it was episode 41 titled Why Side B? Why Side B? Ryan was on that episode. I figured that's a great clickbaity episode where it's like one of the first ones that are available on our feed. So it makes sense that would be the one that's most listened to. So Why Side B, episode 41. Our second most listened episode, episode 47, Intimacy. Again, any shockers there, you guys? I feel like that makes sense. That makes sense for our community. We would be intimate. We would be intimate. And then rounding out our top 3, our third most popular episodes was I was a little shocked by this one, Attachment Styles with guest Taylor Zimmerman. That was like one of the episodes, if not the episode, where I felt like I was in a college classroom. Ryan, you were on that episode, I believe. He like talked to us for an hour and a half, and I was hanging on every word.
I felt like we needed a whiteboard.
I think to this date, I think that is our longest podcast episode. I think it clocked in at over 2 hours, and I just felt like I couldn't remove anything.
Right. It was all such good stuff.
It was so good. Yeah. We might have droned on a little bit in the intro. That's back then when the intros were like 45 minutes long. So maybe I could have trimmed that down, certainly. But super informative episode 51, if you want to check out that one for good times sake. And thank you to everyone who's been listening to, we get new listeners all the time. So like I've heard stories in recent months, even of people just joining and they're like starting from the beginning. And I'm like, God go with you. Cause that is so much content to just binge after all this time. It was one thing when we only had like 5 or 10 episodes that people could binge. And now, we don't have 100 episodes available anymore, but 61, I guess, like that's so many episodes. So, it's cool that people are still doing that and still listening to those things. I want to give some context here because our 4th episode that we ever did, and I'll share more about the YOB origin story later in this episode, but episode 4 that we did was called the YOB Retreat. And at the time, it was an author's retreat, which we used to do years ago. And there was probably like 8 or 10 of us that gathered in an Airbnb somewhere. This was when YOB was just starting. And I just remember that so vividly, 5 or 6 of us sitting around a microphone in an Airbnb. And then going like 2 years later to episode 37, which was the Yobbers Retreat, which Ryan, I don't know if you remember this, but we actually live recorded a podcast at the first Yobbers retreat just to see what that would be like. It was
one of the live questions someone asked me on air was, "Who did you vote for in 2016?"
And I remember that. I remember somebody asking if we flossed our teeth or something. Like, it was, the questions were a little lackluster. I was hoping for more dynamic questions from the Yobbers. Maybe if we did that again today, our current slate of Yobbers would ask some more engaging questions. But that was kind of fun too. Like, we were, that first retreat, we just tried all sorts of things, and we don't do that anymore. It felt very performance based, and it was just like, you know, it was fun to try, but I don't know that I would want to do another live recording at a retreat, because it felt like work too. Like, I wanted to enjoy the retreat and not feel like I have to like now work on this other episode while we're there. But I mentioned that episode in particular because it was cool to like, that would have never been on my mind when we recorded episode 4 with, you know, 6 or 7 of the authors on the website, to go 2 years later and all of a sudden we have a community. We have a community of like 40 something people that are there in attendance and part of this other retreat, which we call the Yobbers retreat, are sweet followers of Your Other Brothers. So it's pretty cool. It was pretty cool just to see, you know, the journey from 4 to 37 2 years later. And now, several years beyond that first retreat, we've had 4 of these Yobbers retreats, having just returned from one last week as of this recording. So I don't know, you guys, we're starting to build a track record. All right, you guys, I am going to do something I've never done. I was telling you guys before we started recording for this episode, but we have this special Discord community. All of our Yobbers are on Discord now. We've kicked Facebook to the curb, because apparently Twitter's shutting down, and maybe Facebook will come next or something. I don't know. Thank God we have Discord as a refuge. But we're going to Discord, and we have an audio channel that rarely gets used, and the Yobbers don't know this is happening. This is a big secret, you guys. So I'm actually going to go live for a couple minutes on Discord and see if anyone responds. We'll see what happens. If this is a total fail, this goes to the Yoblog. So there's really no failing. There's no loss here. You guys ready? You guys ready to see if the Discordians respond?
Let's see if they do better.
It's time to roll the dice.
Yeah, don't worry. If no one shows up, then I'll like put myself on mute and like put it on my phone and like use a fake voice and be like, "Hey."
That'd be perfect.
You can ask who you voted for in 2020.
Yeah,
I want to know who Ryan voted for.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Okay, we're starting. Yobbers, are you there? Are you there, Yobbers? Yobbers, I need you to be there. I need you to be listening. Yobbers, if you're there, somebody. Okay, I see somebody in the audience. We are recording. Oh my gosh. Okay, people are signing in. It's working, you guys. I think it's working. You guys, we are live recording episode 100 right now. This 100th episode is being recorded right now. And I just wanted to know if anyone had anything to say. Does anyone have anything to say while we're live? Because this is the time to say it. You can type in the Bro Zone. That's our channel that you can chat in. Or if you want to, I don't know if you can speak, if that'll be picked up or not on the recording, but I'm just curious if anyone has anything to say. Go to the Bro Zone. Go to the Bro Zone if you have something to say. I'm going to be here for like 2 minutes, you guys. we got a whole episode to record, but I just wanted to see if anyone had anything to say live on this 100th episode recording. Oh my gosh, somebody just posted, Yob is the best family. Yob is the best family. Take that, blood family. Take that, biological.
Oh my gosh,
mom and dad. Yob is the best family. Is that the only comment? Surely we need at least a couple more. I think a couple more comments would be great. Aw, someone said Yob has changed my life for good. Has it changed your life for good, Ryan?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay,
it's been pretty revolutionary for me. For sure.
And what about you, Will Cooper? Because you've never been to a Yob retreat. Can you say with authenticity that this has changed your life? You've never been on a Yob retreat, which will change next year.
Hey, I've been on a couple virtual retreats, pretty involved with those.
You have been on, yeah. Will has been on some virtual retreats, which
And those
It counts.
are pretty amazing.
Yeah, they are. They are amazing. So thank you, Will Cooper. All right. I think we're going to sign off, you guys, on the Beehive. We're on the Beehive on our Discord server. He's just going to chime in, see who is out there, see who is listening. Thank you guys for those of you that called the Yob line. We're going to have some fun with your voicemails here soon. So thank you, guys.
Bye, Beehive.
Bye, Beehive. I don't know how often you guys check the Discord. I'm not omnipresent. I can't check it all the time, but it's done wonders for the discussion component of our community. Like, it's so much more organized than Facebook groups ever was. God bless you, Facebook groups. You got us started on this community journey, but Discord has helped organize our discussions, both the serious ones, the ones that focus on faith matters or sexual matters or masculinity, gender identity matters. Or it's just a place to chat and hang out and have fun, or a place to post prayer requests, or, we just had this retreat. And so we have like a channel where people can debrief the retreat together and post thoughts from that experience. So it's just been really great. It's been great to have that in conjunction with folks who pledge on Patreon. So it's been 100 episodes now. If y'all are listening, if you want to get in on the action, if you want to be a part of the community, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/yourotherbros. We would love to have you. What better time to join? I mean, I guess the best time would have been years ago, but what better time now than to join than episode 100, this new era of the podcast and this community, if you've been lurking, because we love our lurkers. Well, as mentioned, you guys, let's get right to it. There's some voicemails. I thought I would play a couple, and then as we have this conversation today, we're going to talk about favorite moments, favorite guests, favorite experiences, favorite jokes, favorite, et cetera, et cetera. Along the way, we'll sprinkle in some more voicemails, but I thought we would just get things started with a couple here. So let's do that. All right. So let's listen to our first voicemail from, he didn't say his name on this, but he's mentioned his name many times. He's called the Yob line many times. His name is Mike. So let's hear from Mike, hear what Mike has to say as we celebrate episode 100 here today.
Hey guys, this is for the 100th anniversary podcast. Congrats. It's fantastic. Definitely want to get a Ryan t-shirt for this, please. Ryan, if you would please autograph that for me, I'd appreciate it. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to say that, as a caregiver for my mom the last several years, and now during COVID, I kind of miss out on the times where I spent locally here in Maryland with my friends, straight or SSA. And I miss those times, just hanging out in restaurants or at IHOP, after a meeting and a prayer meeting, and just hanging out and laughing and and being silly and being guys. And that's what I get most from you, is just that chance to sort of be in IHOP with 4 of you or 3 of you and just talking ridiculously into the night and not really caring what the waitress thinks, even though it's 1 a.m. So that's the vibe I get from listening, no matter what the topic is. I just want to thank you guys for all the episodes. I listen as often as I can, and I appreciate each one of you. Thanks. God bless you.
Aw, thank you, Mike.
Oh, thanks, Mike.
A Ryan t-shirt.
I will sign all of your shirts if you really want me to.
I was trying to figure out, does he want a shirt with Ryan's face on it? Does he want a shirt that just has your autograph on it, or both? Or I was trying to figure out. Or one of
my actual shirts.
Or one of your shirts that just came off of you after a CrossFit workout. The musk of Ryan still on it. Yeah, that's what I want. That was so sweet. I was just like, I've heard comments like that so much. And it's honestly, it rings true for some of my favorite podcasts when I feel like I'm hanging out with them. They don't know that I'm there, but I'm like I'm in the booth next door, right? I'm at IHOP in the next booth, and I'm listening in, and I get to listen in. I get to be a part of that. Like, that was, I don't know, like we can't have IHOP be the sponsor of this show because 10 Karat Diamonds already has, but I feel like that's another honorary sponsor there. 24-hour breakfast places. There we go. And that's just such an honor that you whoever you are, wherever you are, you can listen to us and hang out with us. And especially during, like, COVID was a significant part of our timeline. That's like 2.5 years of our 6-year journey in podcasts. Like, that's, essentially like a third to a half of the timeline of this show. So it's a significant time. I know there was a time of a lot of isolation for a lot of people, and still is for a lot of people. So, how cool that we can play a role in just bringing people some joy and comfort and camaraderie for an hour at a time. That's special. All right, let's listen to another one. You guys want to listen to another one? This is fun. Another voicemail from a nameless human. Let's hear what he has to say.
Happy 100 episodes, fellow Yobbers. Your Other Brothers, to me, has been a blessing because it's shown me that my story matters and that I don't have to edit it or hide it in order for it to be beautiful. That it's beautiful to God's eyes and it's beautiful to the eyes of others. That's just been the main way that it's blessed me. Again, happy 100 episodes, and here's to many, many, many more.
Oh, thanks. I love that. And yes, our stories are beautiful, and God is doing beautiful things in them and will continue to do beautiful things in them.
Absolutely, he will. Let's listen to one more introductory voicemail. This is, again, we're just getting started, you guys. This is fun. This is fun to catch up on the voicemail game. So let's listen to one more from someone named Dan. Let's hear from Dan.
Hi, Your Other Brothers. My name is Dan, and I want to say congratulations on episode 100. I hope I'm getting this message in time. I just wanted to say that Yob has been a lifeline for me. I did not know there were others out there that were like me. And Yob gave me the courage to come out to my wife and my best friend. And so thank you, Tom, and thank you for all the other brothers that contribute to that. It truly is a wonderful community and a wonderful ministry. And thank you for being a part of my journey. Have a great day. And again, congratulations.
That one makes
you
me
guys like,
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, Ben, please. You're the perfect one to respond to that.
Yeah, I'm glad that we can speak life there and encourage people to be open and authentic with the people around them. Got several friends that are counselors, and especially in the last couple of years, a lot more people in mixed orientation marriages have come out to their loved ones, and seeing an uptick in the counseling world as well, but also seeing people find relief in that authenticity. So I'm glad we could be a part of that for you.
Yeah. I think I have this growing concern. The longer we go, the longer we grow. Like, I'm constantly thinking about, like, gosh, does everybody feel included here? Does everyone feel like they have a seat at the table? And as a single person and as a podcast crew that's predominantly single, I'm grateful. I just want to just give you an affirmation, Ben, for being a married person and for being a regular on this show, because I think I know we have a good number of married people listening, and that's such a vital thing for them to see something of themselves. I'm sure they can see something of themselves in me or Brian or Aaron or Will, but to have someone else who's married on this show and talking about their story and whether that intersects with their marriage or not, depending on the topic or whatever conversation's at hand, like it's just so huge. And that's, brings a twinkle to my eye to hear a story like that our community, that our podcast maybe in particular could play a direct role, not just in one person's life, but in somebody's marriage, and it be a positive thing. Like, that's, again, for going back to Tom from episode 1, no concept of a married person listening or a marriage reaching a greater level of authenticity. Like, that's super humbling, super, super grateful. I'm so glad you called, Dan. Thank you. It's too late to call the voicemail for episode 100, but you can still call the voicemail. You can still call the Yob line for future podcasts that we do, if that ever intrigues you to do so. It's 1-706-389-8009. And something that I will forever now mention in the same breath is that you can also send a voice memo or a voice recording to podcast@yourotherbrothers.com. If your calling rates, what's that disclaimer, like the calling rates apply or whatever. So if it costs you like $37 a minute to call, don't call the Yob line. Just send us an email. Save yourself the money. It's not worth it. I promise you, it's not worth it. But we would love to hear your voice in the future. All right, so we'll get to more voicemails here in a second. I wanted to go around and hear from you guys real quick. 100 episodes, you've been on somewhere between 9 and 51 of them, all of you guys. I would love to hear if any stand out to you, whether you appeared on it or not, for that matter. Any episodes jump out at you as particular favorites from the lot?
I'll confess that when you wanted us to do an episode for Advent, and then also leading up, to Easter as well, initially I went, I'm already talking about this in church. I don't know that I want to do this again here, but getting to draw out, both the sorrow and the longing going into Easter, and then also, the hope going into Christmas as well. I think those were some of the funnest episodes for me. Like, yeah, a lot of good conversation there about what it means to follow Jesus in the joy and the sorrow. So yeah, those are mine.
I had to put you guys in the spiritual box. Like, who better to talk about Advent and Lent than these two brothers? What about you, Will?
I enjoyed those episodes as well. Like, and I was also hesitant going into it because, especially Advent is such a struggle for a pastor because there's like only like few things that you can preach about. Like, it's like, it just feels like kind of like constrictive in some ways, like in the church setting. But like on that episode, it kind of like opened up this like a new understanding of what Advent means for somebody who's LGBTQ. Like, it has like this just different dimension that I never experienced in the church life. And I'm like, oh man, that was wonderful. Like, I was thinking of different episodes of my favorites, but as soon as Ben mentioned that, yeah, maybe those are my top. I guess my list changes as I hear more about that.
Recency bias.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love those episodes. I'm glad you guys went with it. Like, I want you guys to talk about other things that aren't explicitly spiritual, because I know you're more than just pastors, or now former pastors. But yeah, I love those episodes too. They were so fun. I love the connections you can draw, because you're pastors, you can draw connections to anything, right? That's what you told me once. So I love those topics from you guys. We can circle back to you guys if you have any other points. But what about you, Ryan and Aaron? Any favorite episodes come to mind from your end of things?
Well, I was just remembering a favorite moment. I think it was episode 50. We were celebrating our 50th episode, and you were at my house when we were recording, and Jacob was on the other end, and we all had like a glass of champagne, and we had a little toast.
That's right.
And we tweeted a picture of it. It was a special moment. One thing I love about this podcast is this feeling that maybe people imagine you're in a band and you just love the feeling of like getting together with your friends in the garage and making something cool. And that's the feeling that I get from this podcast. And it's really special to be able to do it with you guys.
For a while, this podcast was edited on GarageBand, so it kind of was like we were
perfect. Well, as far as an actual episode goes, I think one of my favorites has been when my pastor at the time, Matt, came on, and he was the voice of Weird Jesus, if you're familiar with that. And we can certainly go back to that episode and find out more about Weird Jesus. But that was a wonderful time to just hear about his heart for inclusion in the church. And I just loved the connection. It kind of brought me into a feeling of a new connection with my pastor in that episode, which was quite a blessing.
Yeah. No, I felt similarly. My pastor, Fred, he hasn't been on the YOBcast, but he did a ConvoCast episode with me. And I felt very similarly with him. I was like, oh, you want to, like, I put the request to him, and I guess I expected him to say yes. Why would I have asked him otherwise? But for him to actually do it, like my pastor coming on this show, like this crazy, weird little show that we've created, like that was such a moving experience to have him on. I know he's listening, so shout out to you, Mr. Fred. I just am so grateful that both with you and Matt, and then with me and Fred, and I'm sure others listening too by extension, just that connection with the local church. Like, it's always been my hope from the beginning that YOB wouldn't be our own isolated little bubble. Sometimes it's necessary that we do our own thing in the bubble, but we definitely need connections with the local church too. And I've appreciated those moments where we can have those both personally and collectively. So that's a good one. And I totally forgot about that 50th celebration too. Gosh, here we are now, 50 episodes later. Can you believe it? Can you believe? Yeah, I mean, those are great times too, Ryan, because back then I didn't have Wi-Fi at my little apartment in the middle of the woods. And so I think back then the podcast was only monthly, because eventually we moved to bi-monthly episodes, but I would make monthly drives to Raleigh to record with you like back in the day. And it was special.
You didn't have Wi-Fi, but you did have a car. Now it's kind of reversed.
Now it's reversed. I have Wi-Fi, no car, but such is life, seasons, hills and valleys, rolling from one to the next. What about you, Aaron? Aaron, you're fairly new to this game, along with the other pastors in the midst. What has resonated with you in the last stretch of episodes?
Yeah, I mean, I might be biased, but I really liked the episode on covenant friendship with Dr. Paul Eddy, also a pastor, not my pastor, but was my professor in college. And there's something about people who are in my life who are non-LGBT or who are straight, who seem to care about it as much as I do and have spent time researching and thinking about it and have something intelligent to say on it. So that was really a good one. I like that. I think it's something that I've personally been curious on as a topic, and I can just sit and listen to him talk all day. So we didn't even need to speak. We could have just let him roll with it.
Yeah. The great thing about having a professor on is like, he's used to like the stage. He's used to like telling you what needs to be said. And so he was just like so succinct and said everything. And we had a great discussion about it afterward. And it was a really great topic. Like I think didn't we do a stats episode last year or something? And that was like our second most or third most listened episode of the year or something. Does that sound familiar to you? Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, that topic, covenant friendship, that's another bread and butter, like bat signal in the sky, sparrow signal in the sky, that they're talking about something that's like super deep, super meaningful. Not that other topics aren't, but I think that's one that tugs on a lot of heartstrings or just causes a lot of curiosity. So that was a great conversation. I love it when you guys like bring your friends onto the show. I mean, that to me is so fun. Like Ben and Will, you gotta bring somebody on to bring them into this weird little arena. Do you have any ideas? Any candidates?
Bring your straight friend to work day.
Yeah.
Tom, we have a mutual friend, but I don't think we can get him to come on. So
we'd have to drag him kicking and screaming.
I think we would.
But that could be entertaining. That we could do that. Yeah, we do have that mutual friend up there in the frozen tundra. But
Justin Trudeau? That's the only other Canadian I know about. Sorry.
Yeah,
actually.
There's only like 4 Canadians, so that's pretty close.
Yeah. I know it's a big country, but do you know Justin Trudeau?
Do you know Shawn Mendes? Can Shawn Mendes come on this show? But yeah, no, having those guests. We're gonna get to guests more in a second. We've already started talking about guests, which I appreciate. Real quick though, some of my favorite episodes. We've talked about a lot of things, and there's a lot of topics that have been interesting and great. But when I was looking at the gamut of these 100 episodes, I think the ones that stand out to me the most are ones that correlate with just really distinct seasons of my life, distinct in either positive ways or not as positive ways. And so going all the way back to episode 40, Ryan, you were on that episode with me, and it was our first reset. It was kind of like the reset episode because the start of a new chapter. It was the start of a new chapter with people involved with YOB, with some walking away and just kind of a shuffling in how this is all even organized. And that episode was called Change. And it was just really special. Like I remember we recorded that in an Airbnb closet, and we were like, because that was where the best acoustics were. And so it was like me and Ryan trapped in the closet recording this episode without any air. And
it was hot. It was so hot.
But it was just because there were so many questions when around that time I was like, can this continue? Like, can YOB continue? A, and then B, sub point, can the podcast continue? And like Ryan, like if I haven't affirmed you enough, Ryan, if you're getting tired of my affirmations, I'm sorry, but you were so instrumental in those like 40s, 50s, 60s episodes, and you still are, and you're still on the show today. But like in those like first batch of episodes, like this show needed consistency. It needed people to commit to it, and you did. And so Change stands out to me as just a really meaningful episode. I won't ask you for a t-shirt, but you are still meaningful to me nonetheless.
Careful, I'll sneak into your closet and sign some shirts.
Yeah. That'd be funny. I just checked the tags one day and there's Ryan Berger's signature on my t-shirt. Crazy. carrying that point further, episode 49, letting go, that was when it was 9 episodes later where we made the decision to remove those first 39 episodes that are no longer available. And we explained it on that episode. So if I still get that email every once in a while, like, what happened? Does your show start at episode 40? What happened? So try to put it on our website or vocalize it whenever it makes sense to do so. But yeah, if you listen to episode 49, letting go, that explains that whole situation, that decision. And it was really great because, again, easily this community, this podcast, the content easily could have either died or been significantly weakened. And from my vantage point, it just feels like it grows. It consistently continues and deepens and grows and strengthens. The more voices we incorporate, the more people join us. We keep getting new people joining, every week, every month, certainly. And it's a beautiful thing. And last episode I wanted to mention as another personal favorite was Gratitude, episode 61. That was the first episode that came out after I was hospitalized with an autoimmune disease, right at the beginning of COVID, when the world was already was on fire and going crazy enough. Like, my body started shutting down for reasons unknown, and I was hospitalized for a week. And the podcast took this like 2 to 3 month break. And it was just beautiful just to see the community respond. Like, Ryan, you and Marshall set up a GoFundMe for me because that just helped incredibly with hospital bills and medical bills that would follow for months to come. And it was really just an opportunity as the world was falling apart, as my body was falling apart, to just have gratitude and just to be like, you know what, but I'm still here, and YOB is still here, and this community is still going. And there's just so much to be grateful for despite things falling apart. And so we connected that to our sexuality. Like, what on earth can we be grateful for with our sexuality and the way we're trying to live? But there's so much if we look for it. And so if you're in a particularly, this episode's coming out around Thanksgiving. If you're looking for a reminder or a refresher on what to be thankful for or what to have gratitude for in this life, maybe go back and listen to that one. It's definitely one of my personal favorites.
Tom, when people ask you about the deleted episodes, why the numbering starts at 41, you should tell them, well, of course I started at 41. When I do push-ups, I start counting at 20.
Exactly. Right. It gives you the illusion of strength or something going on. Yeah. And that was a decision for a while. It's like, do we just renumber the episodes? But it's like those 39 episodes, people listen to them, people know about them, and we've revisited a lot of those topics, and it seems silly to just pretend like they didn't happen. Like, they happened, and we're not gonna pretend like that didn't happen. And change would have been episode 1. Like, no, change was episode 40. And now here we are on episode 100. So it's just part of the journey. It's been special, and I'm just grateful for everyone who's still with us. Some of you guys from listening, if you've listened out there from the very beginning, man, shout out to you for listening 6 years later. I wanted to play this voicemail about this person's favorite episode, so let's give it a listen.
Hi, this is Mike. One of my favorite YOBcasts was the one on bitterness. There were a lot of good things said in that podcast, but the one that sticks out the most to me was the recap of the book of Ruth from Naomi's perspective. I'd always read that book from the perspective of Ruth's faithfulness, but Naomi's arc from bitterness to doting grandmother is just so hopeful and so redemptive. I'll never read that book the same way again. Pastor Will and former Pastor Ben, I think you guys were on that episode about bitterness. So shout out to you guys for that conversation. I remember that being a great episode too. They all kind of morphed together in my mind as I recall them. But I remember having a great conversation too about the book of Ruth with you guys. And we could spend so much time talking about all the favorite episodes because there's been 100 to choose from. So there's a lot. I'm sure there's favorites out there that people have that they wish we would talk about. But then my response is, well, you should have called the YOB line and you should have told us about it. So then we could talk about it. But here we are. Let's move to favorite guests. And, I think what I want to do is go to a voicemail right off the bat. We're changing the game plan as we go. And this is what you got to do when you're in this game. You got to be adaptable. You got to adjust. You got to go as you go. Ryan, you invoked the name of Matt Stevens. You're one of your pastors there at your church in the city of Oaks. And you, I feel like this is such a niche like audience. It's like a sub audience of an audience when we talked to him and we like met Weird Jesus. For those that don't remember, there were these YouTube viral Christian videos from the like late 90s or early 2000s or something, where it's like this super archaic like looking film with Jesus, and he just looks so pale and weak and pasty, and Matt Stevens was the one that voiced it to like make funny comments on these little 4 to 5 minute YouTube clips. And I watched those videos as I ate that up as a little Christian school kid, those vintage Jesus videos. And so if you would have told me back in the day that I would meet the guy that, because I like met him on the podcast, I've met him at your church. Like, it's like, that was just like a mind blowing, world expanding moment for me, Ryan.
I'm so glad this happened.
And Ryan, breaking news, Weird Jesus may have called the Yob line, may have left us
Shut up.
a 100th episode comment.
Shut up.
And to that, furthermore, I've listened to all of these. This one literally came in 30 minutes before recording. It was reaching the deadline. All of a sudden it came in. I have not listened to it yet. I have no idea what Weird Jesus is going to say. All I can see on the Google Voice transcript, because it transcribes every message, all I can see in the first line is, "Hello, this is Jesus calling." So I'm so excited. Are you guys ready to hear the voice of Jesus? None of our other guests called in. None of our former guests called in, but Weird Jesus did. And so we're going to hear what Weird Jesus has to say. Let's go to the Yob line.
Hello, this is Jesus calling. Word on the street is there's a celebration to be had.
Hey, Jesus, can I use the phone?
Peter, we've talked about this before. I'm leaving a message for your other brothers.
You're leaving a message for James and John?
No, I'll explain later. Right now, I need you to hold on to your donkeys for one moment, please.
But Jesus, I need to call Andrew and see if he got tickets to Taylor Swift.
I can assure you, Peter, if I didn't score those tickets, you certainly did not, because I'm Jesus.
Oh, man.
Now, where was I? Oh, yes. Congratulations to your other brothers on 100 episodes of the podcast. To celebrate, I'm going to turn that cheap wine you're drinking into some really good wine. Something full-bodied with notes of oak and cherry. Maybe I'll pair it with some dark chocolate. Maybe not. I'm not a vending machine, you know. Anyway, congratulations, and keep up the good work, my sons.
Oh my gosh.
I'm
dying.
This is gold.
I'm dying. I'm dead. I've arrived.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Matt.
Guys, my whiskey's gone. In its place, I found this. It's red wine.
How did he know we would have alcohol or alcohol-like substances around us at this time?
Oh, he had a sixth sense.
Thank you, Jesus.
He's Jesus.
He's Jesus.
He's watching right now.
I may or may not have reached out to dear precious Matt in the weeks preceding this episode. And I was just like, hey, if you're still in touch with Weird Jesus, would love to hear from him. I know he's a busy guy and I know he may not be available, but I'm just saying we would love to hear his voice one blessed more time. And I was like, you know what? I was going to be like, I know, maybe that season has passed, but like all of a sudden, like the Lord's timing is truly divine. Like literally 20 minutes before recording, there it is. So my favorite guest, I was going to riff or like wax poetic about Greg Coles or Bridget Eileen Rivera. We've had some great guests on the show, but I have to take it all the way back to that church inclusion podcast with Matt, with Ryan, with Weird Jesus. It was an action-packed episode. It was It checked all the boxes for me, honestly. So this is going to be a severe downgrade now as we go to your guys' favorite guests. But we know Aaron's favorite guest is Professor Bias there. Okay, that's acceptable. That's fine. Ben and Will, if you've listened to any episodes with guests, or if you partook in any episodes with guests, do any conversations in particular stand out to you guys?
I've actually have always enjoyed it, Tom, when your brother is on. Like, I just enjoy the dynamic.
Shout out to my brother. So, I didn't even think about him.
Yeah, so that's like one of my favorite guests.
Andy's great. Andy needs to come back on the show if he's listening. Yeah, we talked about our coming out story. If you guys want to check out that conversation about when I came out to my brother and family in general, and he's been on several ConvoCasts as well. So he's been on all sorts of episodes, but not in a while. So yeah, we need to rope him back in. I'm glad you enjoy him. What about you, Ben?
I think for me, yeah, it was the episode with Bridget. I've run across people in the side B world, side A world, and secular that have read her book. So being able to kind of hear from her, hear her heart behind it. Yeah, I didn't actually say much on that podcast, but it was cool to just be able to hear her voice.
She is a pro in all the guests we have on. It's not like we've ever had an awful guest. They've all been fantastic. But I mean, she is just so quick and has stories to tell and knows her stuff and is empathetic. It's not like she's just academic without the empathy. Like she's got it. I'm sure she has flaws. She must have flaws, but everything I've interacted with Bridget about is so positive and so great. I'm glad. In 100 episodes, we've only had 2 women on this show, and she was number 2. So, maybe we'll get some more women, more ladies on the show at some point.
Like maybe re-recording some of those, mixed orientation marriage episodes, perhaps.
Yeah, we did a string of episodes from those 39 about mixed orientation marriage. And so I think we're definitely long overdue for some marriage episodes.
Because that'd get a wife on here, just a wife.
I was gonna say, we need some willing wives. We just need some wives. Are there any wives out there who want to share your experience with I was about to say they're hubbies, and I hate that term so much. Like, Ben, I hope you're not a hubby.
Most definitely not. Most definitely not.
Okay, good. I didn't want to offend you if that's your favorite pet name for how you identify. But yeah, I would say, so many great guests. I'm glad that we have so many to choose from now, because when we first started having guests on, that was kind of new. Like, it was, part of me was resistant to the idea of like outsiders joining us. It's like they're not going to know our jokes or our culture or our way of doing things. And it's just been so nice. Like, obviously we don't do it every episode, and we haven't had a guest in a while actually, but it's just fun. It's fun to have a new energy, whether someone has a book coming out or whether they're a pastor or whether they're a professor, and whether they have just something to say about a particular topic that lends a new perspective. Like, I love there's opportunities to have guests. So shout out to all our guests. Thank you guys for the 100 episodes that it's been. Like, it's just been so fun to incorporate all these voices. All right. So next thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is more lighthearted end of the spectrum, like favorite jokes or favorite quips, favorite running joke type things. And before I go to you guys, I want to go to a voicemail and hear what somebody's favorite joke is. So let's go to someone's favorite moment.
Hey, Tom and Yob hosts, it's Daniel in SoCal. Just calling to say my favorite part ever of all YOBcasts and Yob ConvoCasts was when Ryan was auto-tuned. We want more Ryan auto-tuned. And or anyone. Anyone can be auto-tuned. Seriously. Love the jokes and the banter that you have with everyone, the unique dynamics that you have between your friends and conversation partners. Just the unique insights and conversations that are pulled out of the individuals in the room. It's always so fun to listen to. So thank you for 100 episodes of Yob. Love you, brother. Bye.
Thank you, Daniel from SoCal.
I was going to say, can we just all have some auto-tune fun right now? Because we don't want Ryan to steal it all. Will, come on. You're shaking your head no.
Auto-tune Will.
If anyone else wants to be
I refuse.
Wait, say it again.
I refuse.
Oh, you can work with that. We'll work with that.
That's the beauty of auto-tune, is you can auto-tune anything no matter what they say.
Whiskey turned into wine, opened the heart of the blind. Can you auto-tune that?
I think so. What, for better or worse, the last 30 seconds will be auto-tuned, you guys. So we'll see. Some of it will sound better than others, but that was fun. That was such an organic. I remember texting you, Ryan, when I was editing that episode, and I just texted you like a 10-second video clip of the audio file that was happening. Because I was just so tickled. I don't think I've ever been more tickled in my whole life because Auto-Tune was the sponsor. I don't even remember what episode that was. I don't know if you remember, but it was the sponsor of that episode. And then you said, "Thank you, Auto-Tune." And I didn't even know how to do auto-tune. I was like, I think there's a button on here somewhere. I use Adobe Audition, and I was like clicking this button. I thought I was like, if I have to research this more than 10 minutes, I'm not going to do it. It's not worth the time. But I figured it out in like 3 minutes and clicked some buttons, and then your voice was auto-tune, and I was dying. I was just dying laughing about how funny. It was just so funny to me. And I feel like that's something that we should do more often, you guys. We should auto-tune. We just need to bring some levity to the situation. Just auto-tune. Should have a direct auto-tune button. So that's Dan. Yeah, thank you, Daniel from SoCal. Good to hear from you. Any of your guys' favorite moments? Would love to go around real quick if you have any favorite moments that come to mind, or jokes or things that make you smile.
Was there, I'm just now remembering this, was there a moment when we were recording with Jacob where we had something like DoorDashed or Ubered like to his house? Do you remember the details of that?
Yeah. We were recording, I think that might have been the Taylor Zimmerman episode. This was why the Taylor Zimmerman episode was so long, because this was not, I could not cut this. This was necessary. In the intro matter was I had Jacob's address, and I had someone DoorDash him sardines and honey from like some random restaurant. It was like, I just want to have someone DoorDash the weirdest combination of things to his house. And I timed it out to where it was like 10, 15 minutes into recording, and there's a knock at his door, and you can hear it on the episode. And he's like, there's somebody at my door. And so then we say you should go get it. Or I encouraged him to go answer the door. And then he comes back dying laughing because he looks in the bag and it's sardines and honey. And he's like, what do I do with this? That was funny. That was so fun. I don't even remember why I did that. Being a jokester, you know, that's just something I felt like doing. So I did it. Will, you always love my sponsors, which I'm grateful for. You always like affirm me. Your face and your laughter affirms me. You know, Matt, he's not on this show today, but Matt does not affirm the sponsorships of this show. He's not a fan.
I'm always impressed by your creativity. Like, I would never be able to think up half of those sponsors. So good job.
It's not me coming up with it. It's these people, it's these things, these entities. They approach me when they hear we're doing a topic. That's how it works, Will.
Yes, I'm sure 10 Carat
Big Diamond reached out to me for this episode. They heard it was a big deal, you know, and they came out to support us here today.
One of our sponsors was lingerie, and I remember having a lot of fun with talking about being in the pocket of big lingerie.
You know, I remember Brazilian erection spiders. That was one of our sponsors.
Oh, yeah.
They're like spiders. When they bite you, it like sends blood to the penis and like makes you have an erection or something. Like, it's really weird. It's the weirdest thing. I don't know how I discovered it or what it was sponsoring at the time, but Brazilian erection spiders, shout out to you. One of my favorite sponsors, honestly.
I mean, correlation doesn't imply causation. It could be that the spiders only bite you if you're having a big erection.
Oh, maybe that's what draws them.
Yeah.
We've probably already talked too much about erections for most people's tastes, so we'll move on. We'll continue.
What up, YOBblog?
What up, YOBblog? Yeah. Well, if erections come up again, we'll send it to the YOBblog. I wanted to play this collection of voicemails now, like back to back successively, because it follows on the heel of Precious Daniel from SoCal. You know, I don't know who all's aware of where these pockets of our community are forming. We've got a pretty good pocket here in North Carolina, Ryan. We're cruising right along with people in our community here in this state. But SoCal, Southern California, there is a crew out there, and it just seems like it only gets bigger every other month or something. Like someone else joins from SoCal. And I don't know if this was coordinated or what, but we got like, I don't know, something like 3 or 4 SoCal voicemails. And so I just wanted to play them all in a row because they're just so precious. And so then after we play them, we'll comment on them as needed. But starting with Keegan, one of our ConvoCast guests, he was on a ConvoCast back in the day. So we'll kick it off with Keegan, and then we'll go down the line with our precious precious SoCal Yobbers.
Hello, Tom. I just have to say really quick that I love the little voice like message thing that you put. It's so cute. Yes, hello. My name is Keegan. I'm coming to you live from beautiful San Diego in California. I just want to share briefly how God has used your other brothers in my life. I think for the 100th episode, I don't remember what the prompt was, so I'm just going to kind of briefly ramble, if that's okay. Yeah, prior, I think, to discovering Yob, I had no idea, that side B or A, or like any of that stuff even existed. I believed for like so long that I was alone in my experience. Surely I was the only Jesus lover who experienced attractions to men. Well, look you're the brothers. Yob was my first exposure to side B. But it was also, I think, so much more than that. It was my first exposure to hope, to the reality that I truly am not alone in my experience. And I think it gave me the initial courage I needed to start peeking my head out of the closet. And since then, God has used Yob and other orgs like Revoice to show me like definitively that I'm not alone. That God can use my experience of bisexuality. Shout out to all my bi guys and gals, I guess. That God can use my bisexuality to bless others and to bring glory to His name. To show His heart to the world in increasing measure. So I just want to say thank you to you, Tom, and to all the leadership of Yob. My story is probably just a drop in a much, much larger bucket for all that Yob has done nationally and internationally even, for the gospel. So that's all I got. Love you, babes. God bless. Bye.
Hey, Tom, this is Kevin. I'm one of the SoCal bros, and I just wanted to call in and say congrats on 100 episodes. That's super exciting. And I'm relatively young to Yob, joined earlier this year, discovered it the previous year, but already it's just been an amazing resource for finding community and hope amidst just our little kind of odd ducks that we are within the church community and even in the LGBT community. So that's just been super, super encouraging. And thank you for all the work you've done, for the honesty, for the humor, for just giving us ways to support each other, lift each other up, and keep up the great work. It's just been so encouraging, and really just appreciate this community and everything you've done for it. So congrats again, and here's to the next 100 episodes. All right, hope to talk to you soon. Bye.
Hey there, Tom. This is Alex calling in from Los Angeles, the city of angels. I just want to say how much I have been blessed by your other brothers. This community has been there for me and helped me process through so much as a side B Christian. I am thankful every day for the brothers I have met as a result of being part of this beautiful family. Much love from the West Coast, and God bless you always.
So there you have it, you guys. Our West Coast fully represented on this show today. Man, they came in full force. I love those boys.
I love them too.
Aren't they so great?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've already started putting some feelers out there I've been trying to visit them for a while now because they whisper my name, and I feel like I need to see what's going on out there. Because I used to live in SoCal. I've joked with some of them that I hate that they exist now because I used to live there years ago when I struggled to find friends, or I was starting a new chapter of my life. It was very daunting. I could have used some other brothers back then. But I'm so glad they exist now, and I would love to come see you guys at some point in the near future. Just brought a tear to my eye from Keegan to Kevin to Daniel to Alex, and there's so many more out there too. So thank you gues for taking the time, for sharing the love. I'm so again continually touched by how our community has reached you, enlightened you, and just reaffirmed that you're not alone. Kind of, I guess, in our closing segment, you guys, I wanted to just go around real quick, and you don't have to, and we don't have time for it. You can't tell me a 30-minute story, but just to have it all in one place, I would love to hear how you even found Your Other Brothers, how you found this community, you four in particular. And then I figured I would share kind of how this whole thing started for those who haven't heard the story. I'll go there. But I think Ryan, you probably go back the longest, I imagine, of everybody. I don't know. Between Ryan and Will, I'm not sure which of you found us first. You guys go back a ways, but Ryan got more involved more quickly, I would say. So let's go to Ryan first. Maybe then we'll go to Will.
Yeah, I don't know if I've told this story on a podcast, and I'm not sure if I've told this story to you, Tom. So,
oh my gosh, I'm in for this.
So this could be a surprise. I found Your Other Brothers. You know this. I found Your Other Brothers via Twitter, and I was immediately captivated by the name Your Other Brothers, and by the aesthetics of the site and the content. I was launching I was launching a ministry at my church for non-straight people at the time, and so I saw Yob sort of like what seemed to me to be exploding and ballooning and gaining so much traction and new people. While I was struggling to get people involved in the ministry at my church. And at the same time, well, so there was a little bit of envy there, like, if we're honest, and felt a little bit threatened, like, oh, these people are doing so good. And at the same time, at the time, I was very much, had a chip on my shoulder about the language of like, struggling with same-sex attraction and experiencing SSA and all of that. And some of the early blog posts leaned pretty heavily into that. And so there was a little bit of hate reading going on, where I would read these blog posts and be like, oh, I would say it's so much better. I could do it so much better. But look at them. They're getting so much bigger. They're getting so big. And I feel kind of like, on the sidelines with this other ministry I'm working on. And eventually I started to feel a little convicted that, okay, these guys we're on the same side, right? We're allies. We're together in this. We're in the same boat. We should be walking in the same direction. My heart should be with them. And I remembered what Jesus says about your heart: where your money is, there your heart will be too. And this is about the time that the Patreon launched. And so I decided to start contributing to the Patreon. And as soon as I hit the submit button on that first donation, I remember, sure enough, Jesus was right. My heart sort of shifted, and I was like, oh, I love these guys. They're so great. I just hope we are all in the same team, and I just hope the best for them. And that sounds like a pitch for Patreon, and maybe it is, but that was the story of me getting involved.
And it was on Valentine's Day, as we pointed out.
Oh, that's right. Ago. Yeah. So I was just looking for love.
We gave Ryan an award at the last retreat and checked his Patreon start date, and it was on Valentine's Day. So the love was there in so many ways. Wow. I've heard the surface level of that, and you gave me a new angle to just appreciate you all the more for being in our midst. That was beautiful, Ryan. I'm so glad you're with us. Anyone listening, if you hate us too and want to join, go to patreon.com. Not hate us, but if you might envy us, or you feel weird about us and you don't know what's going on, shoot me a message. Let's talk. We'll go from there. Maybe you'll be on this show for 51 episodes. Will, you joined pretty early on in those early days too. I seem to remember you being one of the first batch of patrons. What brought you to YOB?
Yeah, I remember I was on like a side B Facebook group, and somebody put a post about male nudity, and that's I'm like, well, I have to click on this post, and it was a Your Other Brothers blog. I can't remember who the author was. I don't think he's still around, but
I can tell you exactly who it is, but we'll continue. So the male nudity blog, yes, continue.
Yeah, so I'm like, the more I read the blogs, I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting. And then not long after that is when you guys started doing the podcast, and I was listening to it on a road trip from Wisconsin to Alberta. That was, I think, August. No, that would have been September of 2016 because I was visiting a friend's wedding. And I listened to the first couple episodes. I remember submitting an email and it was read on one of the episodes. And it was I'm like, man, I love this community. I don't know when I joined Patreon, but it was early on. And I still have a letter from you, a handwritten letter that you wrote, Tom, way back in the day.
That's right.
It's on my fridge. And
still?
so it's still.
No.
Do you want me to go grab it?
Wait, please do. Will's going to run down. I want to see it with my own eyes. That's right. Back when I was such an overcommitter and we were desperate for patrons, I would be like, I'll give you handwritten letters if you send us money. And so then I wrote all these letters when people first started joining. I totally forgot about that. Wow. That is, oh my goodness. And there's something about handwritten letters. It is a love language for me. I don't know if it falls under words of affirmation or it's partly quality time too, because it takes time to write a letter. So there's something so embedded in handwritten letters that I love receiving them. I love sending them to people. Oh my gosh, this is so precious to me. He's holding the paper in his hand. He's sitting back down. He's holding it up. I'm trying to remember what station. Did I use stationary?
The lighting is horrible.
Yeah, it is.
It's, how can I?
Okay. Wow, I wrote a lot.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Yeah, it's a full letter. It's cardstock paper too.
Paper, yeah.
And you had a little fish by your name.
My fish insignia. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's authentic, you guys, if I sign my name with the little fish.
Good to be writing to you. We are beyond grateful for your monthly pledge and support.
No, stop. I feel cringe.
Thanks for believing in us and the mission we have before us.
No, stop. That's back before I knew you. You were just a person. You were just a number back then. Oh, if I could rewrite that letter, I would do it in a heartbeat. Okay. Thank you for that blast.
But yeah, I still have it on my fridge. Well, not anymore.
That is touching. But... Yeah, you can put it right back on after this episode. Well, I'm so glad you're with us all these years later. And now you're writing blogs and on the podcast. Theoretically, you're still writing blogs. And so it'd be cool to...
Yeah, I was going to say, not that many.
See you come back to that again. Yeah, I'm so glad you're still here after all these years too. That's warms my soul. Between Ben and Aaron, who do we think got here first? I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. So it's really up to you guys if you want to figure out who shares next.
September 2017. What did you do?
Oh, he's got it. He's got it there.
So I didn't start pledging until 2018. I found out about Yob.
Late bloomer.
Yeah. From a family member though. That would have been July 2017. I have a family member that's also gay, and we found this out at a family reunion. All this shared history, shared story that neither of us knew. It's oh, cool. And told him that I was going to be moving. Was worried that I wasn't going to have community where I was moving. And he's like, well, there is this group that I'm aware of, and pointing me in the direction of Yob. And so, yeah, had my community after all.
That is amazing. I want the details on that later. But send me a follow-up on how that family gathering went. What about you, Aaron? I think I remember you sharing on an episode actually how you found Yob, which was quite humorous to me. Yeah.
I did it in commemorate at some point, but the short story is one of my friends found Yob, I think sometime in the spring of 2017, and pointed me towards it, and I checked it out, but I think I just read a lot of books on sexuality, and I wasn't necessarily ready to leap into a community or that sort of thing. But all of a sudden, he had joined Yob, and he started meeting with these local side B people in Minneapolis. And I was really jealous. My basic reason for starting my pledge to Yob was because I was jealous of these incognito meetings that were going on in Minneapolis with these other people. So what did I do? I threw money at the problem, and lo and behold, I was at the first retreat. It was great.
So you and Ryan both were envious in various ways and threw money at the problem. And now here you are on episode 100.
Yeah. You know what my mother always says, There are so many problems that money can't fix. When a problem comes along the money can fix, just throw money at it and be happy that you can fix it with money.
And the only way you know is by trying to throw money at it first. So
yeah.
I hope people understand the nature of this conversation about, like, you know, please do join us on Patreon. We would love to have you, but if that's not something you want to do, there's no pressure to. But look at Ryan and Aaron. Look at Ryan and Aaron. They're here now. They're here now on episode 100, and furthermore are just amazing human beings and beautiful brothers. And it's so good to have connected with you guys over and over and over again through the years, and Ben and Will as well. Although Will, you provide limitations being in another land far, far away.
So I just scrolled back through just to see my very first, I guess, Patreon message that I got from your other brothers. The confirmation was March 15th, 2018 is when I officially joined.
Okay. That's still cool though. It's cool to see, you know, 4+ years, 5 years for some of us to have that longevity. Like that's super special to me. You know, we'll keep having new people join us along the way, and that's fun too. But it means a lot for just to speak to you 4 guys and then to the other guys who have been with us for just as long. Like that means a lot to me that people, you know, have that level of commitment to this community, to the podcast, to the blog, to wherever they plant feet. It's cool. It's cool to see. Let's listen to our last voicemail about how this person found Yob, and then I'll quickly share the story of Yob.
Hey, Tom and everyone else listening. Happy 100th episode. I just wanted to chime in and mention that this podcast has meant a lot to me. I remember when I first found it, it was actually through the 4 T's in the church. So shout out there. But I was also going through a lot of relational issues and tension with one of my roommates. But listening to these podcasts, and just gave me a lot of hope that deep brotherhood was possible. And so at the time I was in a woodworking class, and I just remember putting on one of these podcasts and aggressively sanding down and shaping wood, you know, just thinking about all of that and trying to release some ink. So anyway, thank you for helping me through that, and just all the work you did for putting yourself out there to make this all possible. Also, shout out to the SoCal gang. All right, take care. Cheers.
Yeah, we had to throw in a shout out once again to SoCal. You thought we were done with SoCal, but no, SoCal continues. Thank you for that call, brother. And I love that visual so much. Aggressively sanding furniture while listening to one of our episodes. I want to know what episode, or what was the content being, or what was happening there. I would have loved to dive into that, but love all the voicemails. Thank you guys. Thank you for thinking of us. Thank you for taking the time to leave a message. It was so special to hear from all of you. And people who find us through, like he mentioned, the 4 T's podcast, and there's why am I blanking on their name? The Life on Side B. Oh yeah, what are we? Side B. The Life on Side B podcast. People find us through that, or Revoice, or all these different books that are being written, and social media. I mean, people find us now in all sorts of ways. So however you found your way here, I think there is something supernatural to it. Like I think God's as present in a Google search or in a clicking motion as he is in all sorts of other things. And it goes back honestly to the story of Yob, of how this whole thing started, because when I was this is a story, if you go to our about page, yourotherbrothers.com/about, you can get a condensed version of our story for anyone curious about how this happened or how we even got here. But in episode 1 of our podcast, I spelled it out. I told the story of Yob, and that episode, as we mentioned in this episode, is no longer available, no longer listenable. And to my knowledge, it's not been spoken in an audio format since then. And so I thought I would take a minute or two and just share that, because when I was 19, 20, 21 years old, I had come out to my parents, I'd come out to myself, but I was alone. It was helpful to start that process of authenticity and conversations and putting this part of my life more out there, but still felt vastly alone, still thought I was the only Christian that could have a homosexual thought or feeling, as has been echoed many times through the years by people on this show and people, listeners and readers. And for whatever reason, for one like November desperate night in 2008, I did a Google search and I searched Christians struggling with homosexuality. That was the 4 words I used. And I came across this blogging network of Christians blogging about their struggles with homosexuality and writing so openly, anonymously, but openly about this journey of faith and sexuality and putting it all together and trying to live as they felt convicted to do. And I was just, I mean, it's the biggest light switch moment of my life because I was blown away that A, other people existed like me, and B, that they would be so brave and that they would be so vulnerable and put their stories on the internet for all to see. Like that to me was so inconceivable beyond the first inconceivable thing. So it was, I don't think 24 hours passed before I started my own anonymous blog and I was joining them and I was writing and I became like the person because I heart blogging so much. I blogged like multiple times a week. The way that blog system was set up was that whoever wrote the most, like their profile was at the top of the list. And so my profile was often at the top of the list for a few years running because I just took it so seriously and I loved it so much. And like over the years, I got to meet a lot of those people on various road trips. For people that know my story, I love to travel and I lived in SoCal for a few years. So I moved across the country after growing up on the East Coast and got to connect with some of these bloggers in person, went to a conference where I met some of them in person. And so over the years, developed this, this little network of friends, these 10 or 15 guys all over the country, Canada as well. And it just was awesome to be able to have, I didn't have this terminology at the time, but other brothers like me, was so revolutionary, was so revitalizing. Like it was a game changer for my faith and for my journey. And, when that blogging network shut down in 2013, it was kind of a slow, like we all saw it coming. We all saw the death of this website coming as social media rose in popularity and people weren't blogging as much. And it was sad. Like for 2 years, I didn't have that outlet. I had started a public blog, but I wasn't out really on that blog for those first few years. And so it was a very cloaked version of Tom, certainly than the one that you can Google about and read today. Bless you in that pursuit. But yeah, I went these 2 years without really having much of a support system as far as these other guys, maybe loosely staying in touch with them, but the blog was down. We weren't doing that anymore. And so it reached a point where I was just like in a particularly desperate, lonely stretch of my life where I reached out to those guys and put out the idea like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if all of us met in person and spent a weekend together? Just like had a retreat, I use the language of retreat and put that out there to these 10 or 15 guys and just wondered if they would go for it, wondered if that would be a thing that happened. And sure enough, they did go for it and they did want it to happen. And there's only 2 ways that could happen. It was or 2 ways that could go. It was either going to be an amazing weekend together or it was going to be just awful and awkward and like never do that again. Don't meet 15 strangers from the internet all at once. Big mistake. But it was the former. It was an awesome weekend. It was one of the best weekends of my life because it was just like, I had met pretty much all of them, but hardly any of them had ever met each other just because of all the traveling I did. So I was kind of the linchpin of like this hodgepodge of humans. And after that weekend, the big takeaway, the big unforeseen gift, something I look at now as a gift was this seed, was this conviction, was this feeling, this desire, this intonation that we couldn't just stay a community of 10. We couldn't just keep this to ourselves. We felt burdened to do it again, to create blogs, to tell our story anew, and to invite other people into our story. And had no idea what that would look like at the time. We joked around or we played around with the idea of having just literally 10 different WordPress blogs and somehow connecting them and figuring out logistics of all that. But ultimately what we decided, what we ran with was a multi-author site. And one of the other contributors came up with that phrase, with that name, Your Other Brothers, because the meaning being twofold for those that don't know. The first meaning being that we are your other brothers for those that also experience homosexuality, whether you're a hard 6 on the Kinsey scale or you're bisexual or you're queer or whatever label you would use, or if you use the language of SSA, like you have other brothers in your midst. Like we are here, we are with you, we are in the church, we are doing our best to live out this Psi B faith journey. And then the secondary message was to the church itself, was to straight people, was to tell them to reaffirm that we exist. We aren't gay people outside of the church and not sitting in the pews and not there on a weekly basis. We are right there with you. And we want you to know we exist and we want to share some of our story with you as well. And it's been interesting over the years to see that story take off more, because I think when we first started those first several years, you know, a lot of our interaction and connection points were with other gay and other queer and other SSA individuals. And as we've mentioned on this episode, it's been awesome to have pastors and professors and brothers and straight people on the show and kind of start to embrace the secondary part of our mission of who we are, of who your other brothers are. And we're not just in a bubble. We are the church as well. We're not our own separate entity. Sometimes we are, but in the grand picture, the grand scheme of things, like we're also the church, and we also have a story and things to offer as well. And so I could have never imagined back then, like we only started with a blog. Podcast came a year later. The Patreon came a year after the blog, and the community was still so new. I remember when we started the Facebook group, we were like, I guess we should start like a Facebook group or something for people who pledge, who give us money each month. Like, I guess we should do that. And I'll never forget the moment when two of our yobbers, we called them yobbers, like from the beginning. That's so organic. I'll never forget when two of our yobbers, like, I don't know, a month or 2 or 3 months into this Facebook group, they met up in person and took a picture and posted it in the group. And that to me, like, blew my mind that people who are pledging and joining this community would meet in person and spend time together and like take a picture and post in the group. Like, that to me was so, and now it happens all the time. You check our Discord. We're not really on Facebook anymore, but you check the Discord and there's a meetup photo like every other day or every week or something about some people in some corner of the country or world even now, meeting up and grabbing meals together or taking trips together or, you know, hiking together or whatever. And we've mentioned some retreats on this episode, but like having these retreats, that was never in the game plan from the beginning. Didn't think, again, only 2 ways that could go after we had 40 some people come to that first retreat. This is either going to be an amazing weekend or it is going to be a flaming disaster. And it's going to be emphasis on the flaming. It's going to be just awful. And I walked away from it with just like, wow, something magical just happened here this weekend. And we've done it now 4 times in person. We've done it twice virtually. I wanted to give a shout out to Daniel on this episode because Daniel was the brainchild of the first virtual retreat, which we held during 2020, during the height of COVID, when we couldn't meet in person. And I would have never had the imagination to even come up with a virtual retreat. I was like, what does that mean? Like, are we just on Zoom for 36 hours? What is that? Who wants to do that? But Daniel had such an elaborate like vision for it and told me that we could use this website Gather and we could do Zoom and we could have like recorded worship sessions and we could do a Discord. That's when we brought in Discord into this whole community. And like that to me was so mind blowing that someone from the community who wasn't there at the beginning, Daniel wasn't there at the beginning. None of you guys on this show today were there at the very beginning. But that people joining us along the way would like have ideas and contribute and be part of leadership and like offer something distinct. Like, I think we'll do virtual retreats as long as I'm here and involved. Like, I think we'll keep doing those for the foreseeable future because it gives opportunity for people who can't travel in person to attend this intentional online event for a couple of days. And there's like, Daniel's just one example of so many stories. Like, I could affirm each of you guys on this show and other people on leadership, but this thing has just really grown. It's never, from the beginning, never wanted it to be any sort of Tom show, even though I'm doing a lot of the work. Like, I know it doesn't exist, and Your Other Brothers, plural, can't exist without other people involved and contributing and continuing to do that, not just stopping like, okay, we're good now. Like, no, there's more things to uncover. There's more ideas to unravel and things to figure out and new communities maybe to form. And, we've mentioned putting out the sparrow signal for a Your Other Sisters community, which was a running joke for so long. Like we would say Yas and really play that up because YOS just sounds so great in our community. When you hear a bunch of other brothers saying Yas, there's nothing quite like it. And now we're like entertaining it and like seriously pursuing it and seeing if that is something that will make sense and that will work for our community. And it spurs like other ideas, like where else are we not using our imaginations? Like, where else does God want to just completely expand and grow? And that to me is what's so exciting. This kind of closes out the conversation with, I don't know if any of you guys have any thoughts, but like that to me is what's so exciting is that there's always, I feel like there's something new around the corner and I don't know what it is, but that's kind of the joy of it. Cause when we started, there wasn't a podcast, there wasn't retreats, there wasn't Zoom calls, there wasn't Discord, there wasn't, any of that. And so, I don't know. It's just the beauty about the story of Yob is that it's like, we could be in chapter 1 right now. This could be chapter 1, and we still have like chapters yet to go, volumes yet to fill. And that to me is what's the most exciting thing about it.
I think one of the most profound things from the retreat for me was looking around and seeing the diversity in our group. And you know, I think Yob, we can certainly grow a lot in racial diversity, although I think this past retreat was probably the most racially diverse retreat yet. But looking around at all the other kinds of diversity, the age diversity, the diversity of the walks of life people are coming from, and the careers and lacks of careers, and the diversity of personalities and temperaments and interests. And I think it's exciting to see Yob growing in those kinds of diversity. And I think that maybe one of the things that's next for Yob is continuing to grow in that beautiful diversity, and seeing how all of that kind of combines and makes us a really strong community.
Shout out to Daniel, who provided one of my favorite comedic moments of this past retreat, Ryan, where he gave a shout out to, we have so many Gaysians now. he was at the microphone. He was like, we have so many Gaysians now. So shout out to the Gaysians.
We love our Gaysians.
We heart our Gaysians. Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, that's always on my mind. Like, who else are we missing, and how can we bring them here, and how can we have their story intersect with ours and be a part of ours? Because there's so much room, I think, for us to grow there. Any other thoughts from you guys about where we're going, or any comments on our story thus far?
I mean, I can't let the 100th episode pass by and not give a shout out to Tom himself as well.
Oh.
And obviously it's God. God does the growth. God does the work in people's hearts. And as for the future of Yob, God's been in Yob. God's proven himself in Yob. And I think God's going to continue to carry Yob or something like it forward. But while we haven't all been here since the beginning, Tom has been here since the beginning. And while God gives the growth, Tom has time and time again through difficult decisions chosen to put God at the center of Yob, and at the center of every decision, every blog post, and everything that he's stood for and that he's done in this community. And I don't think that's something just anybody could do. Not everybody would choose to use this platform as a platform centered on Christ. And more than that, not everybody would have the talent and the skills to be thoughtful, to write the way you have, to put together and edit a podcast. I think the biggest thing I learned when getting on a podcast is that you don't just sit down and talk for an hour and a half. There's a lot of work and thought and editing that goes into it. And so I think I can speak for many of the listeners and readers and those of us on this call with you now and say that we are who we are because of you, Tom, and God's work through you. So thank you for what you've done through your other brothers. And here's to another 100 episodes more.
Yes, thank you, Tom.
Thank you, brother and brothers.
Yeah, and I want to echo that because last month was 5 years since coming out to my church on a public scale. And I remember that night before coming out to my church, going to a Facebook Live event that Tom was doing, and mentioning that. And I remember you guys you praying, and then I went on to come out to the church. And it's just like when I think of the direction of Yob going forward, I hope it's still like that for other people who have to go through really scary situations like that. They know that they have this entire community that's praying for them and supporting them. And it's it's crazy to think that was 5 years ago when that happened. So it's it's just quite thankful for the way God has worked in Tom and your other brothers in the past. And I think that'll continue.
I remember that so vividly, Will, and just countless stories over the years of like people posting and being like, I'm going to come out to my parents tonight, pray for me, or I'm going to come out to my best friend tomorrow, pray for, like that to me is the fact that they have people that they can tell that to and have people praying for them and following up with them. And then we want to hear the juicy details after, like, how did it go? How did it go? Let us know. And like the follow up, like to have a place where that can support people. I know that in my life, that was so huge many years ago. And I know it is for people today. And that's like, man, it's like, I got to see Will Cooper grow up. I got to see him come out to his church, and here he is fully blossomed today before us.
Kind of bouncing off of that, I mean, this idea of people finding their tribe, finding their community within YOB, and that giving them the support that they need to actually go within their physical community where they are, in their family and in their church, and be able to come out, be able to be real, and find support, not just, online with YOB, but in real life. I remember for a little while when people would leave the group, I'd be sad, and that still happens. But a lot of the times people have left the group because this has been a time and a season for them. And it's because this has been the safe space for them to have the strength to be able to build what they need in their face-to-face community. And so, regardless of how big this group gets or how small it gets, not that I'm thinking that's going to happen, I am glad that this is a space that was and is, and hopefully will continue to always be, a space for people to be able to reach out and ask for prayer and just have people surround them and build them up. So thank you for what you do, Tom.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, it's awesome to see, whether people are here for a season or longer or many seasons, like I think I'm hoping that God has something for people, however long they are with us. And for whatever reason, I don't know why I care so much. I care so much about guys like us, women like us for that matter, humans like us. Like there's something in me that just wants them to find the same level of, just hope and growth in Jesus and being able to make this life work. 7 years ago, when we first started Your Other Brothers, really didn't know what to expect. I figured some people would read it. I knew that the 10 of us who co-founded the website had been drawn to the internet, drawn to these stories, drawn to the vulnerability and the pursuit of Jesus, despite all the difficult, confusing, and often shame-producing cards that we'd been dealt. I figured people would read our blogs again, just like they did years ago. And I think somewhere in the back of my mind, the idea of a podcast was there. I knew nothing about recording a podcast, editing one, uploading it to the internet. I had no idea how any of that worked. I still remember the early days of planning this podcast, figuring out what it would look like, who would be on it, what sorts of topics would be discussed, how regularly we would do these things. And it's kind of amazing how when you start working on something, the road materializes before you. All you have to do is take the next step, take another step, and wake up the next day and take another step. As I thought about the layout of the show, I was influenced by some of my own favorite podcasts. The way they did the intros, the way they had music, the way things got funny and serious, all within the span of an hour. And when I started thinking about the end of the episodes, I couldn't get away from this notion of a segment of a benediction, something to close out our time together. I thought back to the church that I joined while living in Southern California, how the pastor there would always close our services with a benediction. He would invite us to hold out our hands in a posture of receiving his encouragement
his charge, reminders from Scripture that God was with us, that God would go with us, that God would stay with us, even as we departed this place. And it's always been my hope for these episodes that for the hour or hour and a half or 2 hours even, that you sit with us, that you cook with us, that you drive with us, that you walk or bike or work out with us, however you consume these episodes, that by the end of our time together, you would be reminded in maybe a way that you didn't realize before, that indeed you're not alone. You're not alone with your fellow humans, and you're certainly not alone with the God of the universe. It's my hope that after listening to these episodes, you feel more connected with your Creator, that you feel more connected with your fellow man, and that you find a dash more hope than when the episode started. And so, going all the way back to episode 1 of this YOBcast, I close the show with my first benediction, the first of nearly 100 to come. And so before we go here today, I'd love to read back that very first benediction from that very first Your Other Brothers podcast that came out over 6 years ago and still makes me smile in ways that I feel it shouldn't. I couldn't have known then what the road ahead would look like. And maybe that is precisely the point, that we don't know what comes next. But if we take that next step, God will meet us. He certainly met me. I pray he meets you too. And so, fellow sparrows, I pray that God heal the deep, dark, lost, and broken parts of you, not just for your own sake and betterment, but so that your repair, your rise from dust and ash, will stir the darkness, capturing those eyes still roaming for light and life, that your redeemed and still redeeming story will catch others off guard, and yet so distinctly click for the one whose face you seek and chase with every leg of this long and wearying race. May he fill you, and may he fuel you day by day, hour by hour, so that in you, others will see him, and that through your story, others too will sing redemption's sweet, sweet song.
Grateful for all of you guys, for all of our yobbers and all of our supporters for making this happen, because this is what I do. This is what I do for a living now. And, it makes it interesting month to month, but it's, the most fulfilling. I can't imagine like whatever else I could be doing right now that it wouldn't be as fulfilling. And so I really do appreciate all the financial support, but all the messages, all the handwritten letters, all the emails, all the hugs, all the times together at retreats or otherwise. Like, it's just, it means a lot. We've mentioned the Patreon enough. We also have a store. And so we have this brand new logo, brand new design. I mean, it really is a new era for YOB. And we've got things like drinking receptacles and journals and all sorts of things if you're interested to support YOB and sport our new, Ben's holding up a You Are Not Alone tumbler right now. So there's that. You can purchase that. You go to store.yourotherbrothers.com, and that's you can get these new things just in time for Christmas. How fun is that? Stocking stuffers. I have to, the closing joke is like, when I saw that we could do scented candles and we could call them whatever we want, like I was dying, because we had a faith, homosexuality, and masculinity candles, one for each of those. And then we also had a coming out candle. We had a celibacy scented candle. We were debuting all of these items at the retreat. I'm not sure. I haven't decided as of this recording if they will be available on the public store page because it's a fun inside joke, but it was so fun. And yes, homosexuality was the best smelling candle by far.
I went home with that one.
Ryan can attest. So we'll see. Maybe if I'm feeling bold and daring, I'll put the homosexuality candle for sale. But otherwise, you might just have to come to a retreat and claim it for yourself.
Can I just say I don't remember what the descriptor, like what the actual noun was, but if I'm pretty sure the homosexuality candle had the word spicy on the actual scent title, and I thought that was perfect.
Oh yeah, it's the scent on the bottom of the candle. It says it smells like comfort spice, which I keep saying is incidentally my Spice Girl name.
Comfort Spice. Oh my gosh. You are Comfort Spice. That is perfect. Ryan, aka Comfort Spice. We could just change your Yob. If you want a Yob alias, Ryan, even though people know who you are at this point, Comfort Spice. We'll just put you up there. That'd be so funny. You guys, this is so great. We want to hear from the Yobbers. We want to hear from the supporters, the listeners, anyone out there listening. Go to yourotherbrothers.com/podcast. Find our episode 100 post, the story of Yob. Tell us a story. We told many stories. We listened to many stories. Thanks to all the voicemails today. That was awesome. We'd love to hear more from you guys. So tell us a story. What brought you to Yob? What do you enjoy about Yob? Why are you still here? Why are you still with us? And maybe there's some ideas. There's some vision casting out there. Where do you think we might be going? What else could we be tapping into next? Would love to hear from you guys about that. And thank you to 10 Carat Diamonds. Every single one of those carats were used here today to make this episode happen. So shout out to you. I'm excited for 100 new sponsorships in the next century of episodes, however long that's going to take. Can you guys imagine 6 years from now doing episode 200? Oh my gosh, crazy. I'll be in my mid 40s. We'll see what happens when we get there. This is fun. It's hard to coordinate. It's hard enough to coordinate 3 people on a podcast. So coordinating 5 could have been problematic or just difficult. And so I just wanted to thank Ben and Will and Ryan and Aaron for clearing the schedule. We went a little over today with our recording. So thank you guys for sticking with us and being a part of the show. I couldn't do it without you. So love you guys.
Well, and Tom, I'm glad that you texted me individually to see if I could make it because I don't check any of the emails or anything like that. So
we can text again. That's a new revelation, you guys. Will and I can text again. We were like having technological difficulties there for a while, but we are textual again. I guess that's it, you guys. Anything else we got? You feel like we've properly celebrated these 100 episodes? All right, here's to 100 more. For all your other brothers, this is Tom.
This is Ryan.
I'm Aaron.
And this is Ben.
And this is Will.
Reminding you that you are not alone. Even the sparrow finds a home.
For the 100th time. Bye.
100 times.
Woo! Thanks for listening to Your Other Brothers podcast. Our show is edited and produced by Thomas Mark Zuniga. We'd love to hear your story. Comment on this or any of our episodes at yourotherbrothers.com/podcast or share a story to play back on our show by calling us at 706-389-8009. You can also email us at podcast@yourotherbrothers.com or write to us at Your Other Brothers, P.O. Box 843, Asheville, North Carolina 28802. If you enjoy our show, consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Your Other Bros. Finally, if you'd like to further support our storytelling, community building efforts, consider becoming a Yobber. Yobbers pledge monthly on Patreon and receive perks like bonus podcast content, regular group calls with fellow patrons and authors, and more. Visit patreon.com/yourotherbros for more information. Until we journey next time, we're glad you're with us.